This DJ and TV show is sponsored by DJ Event Planner, Electra Voice, DJ Trivia and DJ Bingo, ProX Direct, NLFX Pro, Promo Only, Odyssey Cases, Perfect Portals, JMOZ Lighting, Instant DJ Requests, and our DJ and TV Insiders. This is John Young from DJ and TV. Thanks for watching.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show. Now, not that any of you would know it, but we were at Expo last week. So we weren't recording a show. We were doing Expo things, which we'll talk about a little later on the show.
I think we aired our Hanukkah special last week.
Yeah, we probably did.
If I'm not mistaken.
He's going to have to tighten it up because he's running out of material. So, they might actually see this next week.
Pop music and a dreidel. I think that was the topic. If I didn't catch it, I was at the bar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to talk about that I want to talk about on this show. But I wanted to bring something up that we didn't get a chance to talk about last week. And that's Olivia NewtonJohn.
Oh, yeah.
Being the music show, I think it's worth a mention.
Sure.
Yep.
So, in the mobile DJ world, the only two songs that you're probably even kind of thinking about are the songs from Grease, Summer Nights, and You're the One That I Want.
Mm-hmm.
Hopelessly Devoted to You.
Well, that's a great song, but as far as mobile DJs are concerned, they're probably only thinking about those two.
Right.
Man, I was there. Okay, Jay was there. Howie was there when this was happening.
Yep.
And I remember my mother would have Olivia NewtonJohn songs on the radio. And I had no concept of what she looked like or anything else because there were no music videos back then. I mean, unless you were watching the Tonight Show or the Midnight Special, which I probably wasn't doing at, 6 or 7 years old, you didn't have any concept of what these people look like.
Yep.
So I was hearing songs like, Have You Ever Been Mellow? Please, Mr. Please. Things like that. She started out as a country artist, and those songs, I believe, were crossover tracks. I Honestly Love You. I think that was a country song.
Yeah.
Like I've said before, it was so good it couldn't just be country. And it's not thought of as a country song. It's thought of as a pop song.
Yep.
But I believe that it was initially a country song because she was initially a country artist.
Yeah. True.
First album in, I think, 72 or something like that. First hit in 73. And her last hit, I think it was probably either 83 or 84 with Twist of Fate from Two of a Kind. Anyway, Grease popped, right? So we all saw her in Grease.
Yeah.
For me, all right, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but for me, Olivia Newton-John happened after Grease. That's when I started paying attention.
Because of the TNT? Was it, or not TNT? What was the album that she was all decked out on?
Totally Hot?
Yeah.
Yeah, that had a little more love on it, which was a banger.
Yeah. It was. I for some reason I always put TNT, which was the Tanya Tucker one, when she went from like straight lace white country to this black leather look. Kind of thing.
Yeah, Totally Hot, I believe, was the name of the album. She's kind of leaning up against something.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden she's like this pop artist, and she's getting better tracks.
Yeah.
And my God,
on that
you really
Benatar look, and took
before
that
Pat
on.
Benatar. I mean, she was before a lot of these people.
That's right.
Somebody had mentioned how her sound reminded them of ABBA, and I'm thinking to myself, ABBA didn't come out till 76. or something like that.
Yeah,
Mid 70s.
they won Eurovision. Yeah.
Right. And maybe that was 74. But anyway, she's 72, 73. So she's before ABBA.
Yeah, she was before ABBA.
So maybe ABBA sounded like her.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
the influence came from there. Sure.
But yeah, there were a lot of really good tracks. I mean, I think most people are thinking about either Grease or Physical.
Xanadu.
I don't know that they're thinking about Xanadu, but Xanadu's really good. Now that was a song written by Jeff Lynne from ELO.
Yes.
Whoa.
But I mean, it's hard to. I don't know that people like us, unlike us, consider the writer. Like, I still shock people when I say Frank Sinatra never wrote a song, and they look at me like, "Oh yeah, he had tons of them." I'm like, he never wrote a song.
He's saying the Great American Song Catalog written by Cole Porter for the most part.
Geddy Lee never wrote a lyric.
Elvis too. Elvis never wrote a song in his life.
Oh, that was Neil Peart with Rush, wasn't it?
Wrote all of the lyrics.
Yeah, the drummer.
The lead singer of Squeeze, Difford and Tilbrook, Chris Tilbrook, the blonde who sang everything except Cool for Cats, he never wrote any of those lyrics. He only wrote the music.
I don't know that Olivia Newton-John wrote anything that we heard, but
I don't know if she did or didn't.
Well, I think she did write some personal things. I remember I had a copy of Physical in 45 because I had to have a copy of Physical when it came out.
Sure.
And if I remember correctly, the flip side was called The Promise the Dolphin Song because she was into animal rights.
Yeah, she wrote.
I kind of think she might have wrote that.
She wrote that.
Probably did.
She did.
Or something like that. But she didn't write Physical, I don't believe. Maybe she did, and I'm way off on this.
Right.
But tons of great tracks. Magic is a wonderful track. Wonderful track.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm going to go back to Xanadu for a minute. Anybody who says, well, people don't think about the songwriters, listen to Xanadu and try to not think of it as a Jeff Lynne ELO track.
You and I do. But I
mean,
think
anybody.
there's a big segment of society that hears a song and doesn't stop to say, hey, that was written by.
Yeah, it's
I do.
Of Jeff Lynne.
I mean,
in a good way.
Jimmy Webb songs, MacArthur Park and 3/4 of everything Glenn Campbell did, and you see similarities.
Yeah.
You hear things that are like, oh, I know that style.
There was another album that she did, and I can't remember the name of it, but one of the big tracks on it was called Heart Attack. Remember that one?
Vaguely, to be honest, vaguely.
It was a good song. It was a cool song.
She hit at that point in the late 70s, early 80s, and then a little bit later in the 80s where the roads had started to widen.
Yeah.
I got so into one style that I wasn't as open to pop.
I think, yeah, you're right.
That was the problem back then.
I know. I mean, Two of a Kind was the movie, and it was the soundtrack. I have it back here somewhere. I've got a copy of that.
Right.
Which had Twist of Fate on it, and it also had a song, Living in Desperate Times, that I think might have charted like way up there somewhere. Or way down there in the chart somewhere, I guess I should say. I don't think it was a top 40 track, but it was somewhere in the top 100, I think, as a single. And then that was it. I mean, she just disappeared. And you're right, there were so many other things happening. We had the second British invasion going on. We had all this cool rock stuff going on. Hip hop was becoming a thing. But then you think about it. I mean, geez, by what, 87, we had Whitney Houston. So the whole songstress thing kind of came back. And
I think Olivia's generation ended up in Branson, Missouri.
Well, but Olivia wasn't doing country anymore.
You're right.
No, but I think there was still that, Branson came in and said like, hey, here's for singers, particularly country, but the Osmonds had a big theater.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't think of them as really, I'm just saying there's a cycle in music. If you sat down and wrote it, you'd say, start here, be groundbreaking, get dangerous, get pop, go mainstream, eventually end up in Vegas or Branson, be a throwback.
I would argue there was that, and it was real. I remember I was just watching a Tonight Show interview with her and John Travolta, and it was actually Joan Rivers who was doing the interview. It wasn't even Johnny.
Wow.
And Joan asks Olivia, "How old are you?" And she tells her, and this was, I think it was either early 83 or early 84.
That was dangerous back then.
And she said 35. And Joan says, well, you look fantastic for 35. And I'm thinking, my God, she's a kid. 35, you're still a kid in my world,
Well, yeah, especially now.
And in today's world, she's still a kid. I mean, look at somebody like Britney Spears, who they keep digging up.
Yeah.
And putting out there, and there's hits. People buy this stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I think if Olivia would have wanted to, if she would have wanted to, I think she could have kept going. Because the reason being is she's one of the only artists I can think of that was this total package.
Mm-hmm.
Where she had not only the range, but the tone. Geddy Lee's got range.
Mm-hmm.
But she had the tone. It's beautiful.
But I think the thing
did.
I was watching a show similar to Tonight, or whatever it is, where I'm not sure if it came out or it's going to come out posthumously, but she was doing a couple of songs with her daughter, who's an artist.
Chloe.
Yeah. Did they release that, or is that going to be?
I don't know. There's a music video out there where Chloe redoes Magic, and Chloe can't sing, but Olivia's on it singing, and it's like an EDM track.
Okay.
Oh, I think I've heard that.
I remember watching it, and Chloe has like these big, Botox injected cartoony lips, and
Renison, or not Renison. What's her name? Lisa Rinna.
Yeah, it's worse than that. It's
jeez.
It's like plastic surgery disaster lips. I was afraid they were permanent, but I've seen recent pictures of her and they're not quite as ridiculous looking. I mean, Olivia had work done, but it was relatively tasteful.
But the thing with Olivia back then, she escaped the internet, and I think there was some movie that I got into on VHS.
Yeah,
and
you got out of it before it got ugly. Absolutely,
right? It had correct me on this one. Her last name was Daly. She was in all those like movies in the 80s, Brian, like E.F. Daly or B.T. Daly. She had two initials for her first name.
I don't know.
She was the blonde, squeaky voice, cute little thing. And she would show up in all these teeny bopper movies in the 80s. And she was in with one guy who I think ended up living with Olivia Newton-John. He was kind of like a heartthrob for a minute in the 80s. And he was that was the only thing Olivia got caught on, was she had a bad habit with men. I think she had a husband a few years ago who went missing and was presumed dead, but then they found him.
Oh, did they find him?
Yeah. But she never got into any real Olivia Newton-John got busted with a pound of cocaine at the airport, kind of stuff. So she kept that wholesome.
Well, I mean, there's all these tabloid stuff.
Became parents. They were like, oh my God, Grease, you got to see. Plus, she was an iconic movie like Grease.
Yeah.
That's, Saturday Night Live or, Saturday Night Fever is iconic, but it's dirty. Grease wasn't dirty. Grease was like, you could watch it with your daughters.
Grease is kind of dirty.
Well, yeah, but not so dirty you couldn't watch it.
Go back and watch it again.
I just watched
it. Hasn't aged well.
Ago. No, but it was that magic time. It's sort of like Barry Manilow. Like, he still won't come out and say that he's been with the same man for 40 years.
Oh yeah, he has.
Well, he has now, but it's of recent times. But he got away with the beagle puppies and the girls falling in love, and
let me just get this out before I go any further. And I want you to just riff for a while. That's fine, but I just wanted to get this out. It's like I was saying, total package, and this is what the total package is in my mind. She got the range and the tone. Okay. Now, you had mentioned, was not on the internet, but you didn't really hear anything about her with caught with a pound of cocaine or anything. And she seemed like a kind person, and just had that smile. She was the only time she didn't smile was toward the end of her career. She was trying to be like more sexy thing, but she never really played the sex symbol. She was just hot.
Well, she had the cancer battle too.
That was after that.
Later.
I'm talking about physical. I'm talking about heart attack. I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Okay, that period.
She was kind of going. Yeah. I don't know, man. One of my favorites. When I've always said that I think Donna Summer is the best female singer of all time. Olivia Newton-John is a pretty close second. Ann Wilson's in there. I mean, there are some that I'm just absolutely crazy about, and Olivia's always been one of them. Who I've just never heard anyone sound like her.
No,
you
Right.
know? It was that
she
unique.
had a softness to her
Talent.
voice.
I have an observation to make. When you say she disappeared, I think she had enough money to raise her family. She reminds me of Patti Smith. Okay, remember Patti Smith, Horses?
Sure.
Yeah.
She was huge. She was huge on the punk scene, but when she had kids, she disappeared.
Really.
Now she's back touring again because her kids are grown up. And I believe that's what Olivia Newton-John did as
I was
well.
kind of thinking the same thing. I mean, she's had a ranch in Malibu forever, you know.
Right.
And I think they buried her there.
She died. She died in Santa Ynez, which is between Solvang, which is north of me. Like, I could get to where she died in probably like 2.5, 3 hours. And it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it's a beautiful place.
Isn't that where Michael Jackson Neverland was?
Santa Ynez? No, I think his was outside of LA more, wasn't it? I don't know. Let me look
He was San Ynez.
It could have been.
Wow.
But it's up there. It's up above LA.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Malibu Ranch, I remember hearing about her living in Malibu for years. I know she's got properties in New South Wales as well. Born in England, by the way. Went to Australia as a child. And then went back to England when it was time to really kick off the career.
Neverland Ranch was 125 miles northwest of Los Angeles. So way up. Olivias, California.
Okay.
But it speaks to what Howie just said about her, raising her family and getting away.
Yeah, I think he's right.
To stay in the limelight.
I think he's right. Because, I mean, think about it. All that music.
Smart move. It was a
how many
move
movies?
To take them out of that.
I'm counting 3 movies under her belt. I'm counting 3. There may have been more.
There's probably more that we can't think of or remember.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not suggesting that the last 2 made any money, but the first one definitely did.
Oh, yeah.
And she was getting good deals on those last 2. So even if they lost money, she made money. And that was back in the days when they could double dip, when they could do not only the acting thing, but she could do the music thing too and the soundtrack thing.
Right.
So yeah, I think Howie's probably right at that age. Hey, if I'm gonna have a family, let's do it now. I got dough. I'm not getting any younger.
Points on Grease.
I'm pretty sure she got a lot of movies under her belt, Brian. I think she did a lot of movies, actually. A lot. People, if you were to Google it, you'd be surprised. Like, there's a bunch of 80s movies that she may not have been the star in, but she was in Crocodile Dundee. She was in like a lot of pop culture movies like that.
Oh, well, maybe a cameo or something.
Yeah, like she always.
Who was she in Crocodile Dundee?
Something to cash in on. Like she was smart.
Olivia Newton-John was in Crocodile Dundee,
according to Google.
I don't remember that. Was she somebody at the bar when he pulled the knife out?
Yeah, like she was probably a cameo in the show, playing at a lounge or something like that. Or
I'm talking about a starring role. I mean, the 3 I can think of would be Grease, Xanadu, and Two of a Kind. Those are the 3 movies I can think of.
Yeah,
it's all that I can think of.
I mean, yeah, of course she's going to make a cameo. Eddie Van Halen is in RoboCop.
Right.
Made a cameo.
Yeah.
Plays a homeless guy or a geeked out guy or something.
She had a female manager in the 90s because I saw an interview with somebody locally in San Diego over the weekend. And they said, yeah, we did a show. And they showed a picture of this guy on stage with her in San Diego. And the contract was she would come out to do this big celebration of this coaster park and do like 4 songs. And this guy was so smitten and so excited. He went up to her on stage, on the mic, and said, is there any way the 2 of us could do You're the One That I Want? And she said, sure. So they did. And he said, I came off stage, and to this day, and we're talking, this is like 89, 90.
Right.
He goes, to this day, I've never been yelled at by a manager so badly as her manager. He goes, I get backstage, and her manager was like, come here. And she just went up one side and down the other. Because she had said to me when we got her on stage, by the way, no surprises. Yeah. Oh, yeah, don't worry. By the way, no surprises. Like specifically. But I guess it spoke to Olivia Newton-John as a person who obviously with her manager said, There'll be no surprises, right? Yep, no surprises. And when the guy said it in front of a crowd of probably 1,000 people, she's like, sure, I'll do that.
Sure.
Like, she could have very well said, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't.
But
She
nice.
knew enough to...
She seemed like a kind soul.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say that she wasn't, you know.
I can tell you the exact moment she says something about making love in I Honestly Love You, because I did a wedding, I bet you 20 years ago, and the bride said to me, the father-daughter dance is the Olivia Newton-John's I Honestly Love You.
Mm.
But you have to stop right before 2 minutes and 38 seconds because it changes to, and as we make love, or something like that. And I'll never forget.
Yeah.
He said it. If she said it once, Brian, she said it 400 times. She came over to me before I announced the father-daughter dance, said, remember, and I'm like, 2:38. And they went out there and like literally I abruptly stopped at like 2:36, panicked. Because she's like, I can't stand that part. But the beginning, like, it's my dad's favorite song with me, and but we both hate that part. I'm like, not to worry.
Right. You know, I've turned you guys. I think I may have turned you guys onto this before. Something that I found, and it just baked my noodle. It was from, I believe, 2009, some benefit concert in Australia. Barry Gibb was doing this thing. So Olivia comes up and does a few songs with him. Islands in the Stream. I forget what the other one was, but they do Guilty.
The Barbra Streisand track.
Yeah. And Olivia, I mean, but okay, in 2009, Barry Gibb's voice was gone. He sounded like a Muppet version of Barry Gibb. Like Frank Oz was pretending to be Barry Gibb with a Muppet is what he sounds like. Olivia still has her voice, and I am convinced that Barry gave that song to the wrong singer because Olivia killed it.
Barbara does a good job in that song.
Live in 2009? Oh my God.
Didn't Barbra Streisand on tour in the last 10 years do it with Barry Gibb again live?
I don't know.
He does that track on tour.
I don't know.
He had that huge tour about 5 or 6 years ago, and I know she does it.
Yeah, he doesn't have.
Is that the same show where Barry Gibb and Olivia sing Islands in the Stream? Was that the same?
They do Islands in the Stream. I don't remember what the.
Yeah.
They do 3 songs: Islands in the Stream, something else, and Guilty.
That one, of course, caught my ear, right? Just because I'm a big fan of the song, and
right. Yeah. But yeah, he gave that song to the wrong chick. Yeah, I'll show it to you if you're interested. I'll show it to you again.
A lot of people covered that song, even Dolly Parton, you know.
But it's really good. She just was a natural. She was a total package. And my God, I mean, one of my first crushes.
Yeah.
And it was so disappointing to find out that she was very close in age to my mother. You know, like within like 8 years. And I'm like, that's weird, but it doesn't matter. Look at her. Jesus. One of those. Oh, well. I got a Puerto Rican Kylie Minogue. I guess I'll just deal with that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Like I said, Thanksgiving, I offer Brian the drumstick, not the breast. It's just the thing.
Yeah.
Dark meat. Always dark meat. I Olivia's, and you know, I was thinking to myself, you know, I normally don't dig blondes, but I love Olivia.
Thinking like Olivia's so not in his wheelhouse.
You know what? You're in the same boat with a lot of people. Like, there's a lot of people that thought she was it. Like, she had
she was.
Package. She was like butter. She's like butter. It was smooth. She was smooth.
And she smiled when she sang.
Yeah. And
you know, she didn't look angry or like she was strained.
No.
Whenever I see everybody, Whitney Houston,
enjoyed it.
Watch Whitney Houston sing. She looks like she's ready to explode because she's pushing it out so hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Olivia's effortless. She's not even trying. Donna Summer was the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive to me.
It is.
From Boston. Just saying.
From Boston.
John is not from Boston.
Donna Summer is.
Okay. Donna Summer's from Boston. Yeah, she's like butter.
Olivia NewtonJohn and Whitney Houston. And Jeff Lynne of ELO. And
right. Of course he's from Boston.
I can keep going.
The Beatles
Elvis
from
Presley. They're from Boston. Elvis Presley. God. Yeah, I can keep going.
Yeah.
Right down the list.
What about John Wick? Is John Wick from Boston?
Boston.
And
Yes.
that's why
Keanu Reeves from Boston.
That's why
he says Hawaii or something, but
no, he says Canada.
And Canada. Yeah, he lives in Toronto.
He's Canadian.
oh, like hell. Screw
Which
that.
is right near
Go
Boston.
figure.
It's right across the road,
Yeah,
right?
Canada,
Boston's
America's
right
top hat. Yeah.
America
Right
Light.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was a big deal. And I think we're at that age now where sadly you're gonna continuously see this line of people that we've seen in concert, we've adored.
it normally
And
doesn't.
we're the last
affect me.
we might be some of the last generations to have these kind of feelings.
I don't know. I mean,
Well,
I
put it this way, I've got an incredible 20-year-old and 16-year-old here. They don't own a piece of music.
right.
So
but
how tied are they to the artist?
Yeah.
well, they've grown up with somebody. Be
they
a
did,
personality of some kind.
Right.
Brian's hugging album covers from 1973. It's not the same. You've got the album covers sitting there. You probably have them in front of you. You've got Olivia's collection right here, hugging them, because that's how attached you are to the art that's on them and the photos that are in them and the voices that come from it and the emotions that come out of it. Where kids nowadays, it's on Spotify next or TikTok next. They don't have
it's short
that level of
attention span stuff.
attachment.
Okay, let's talk about that. Going off a little left turn here.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's quite all right. But I'm thinking about this person who there's nothing in auto-tune that's making her voice sound like it does. It's all natural. You watch her live performances; they're actually better than the recordings. Like
you have a real attachment to a real person.
She's gorgeous. She's talented.
Yeah.
She's smiling the whole time she's doing it.
Yeah.
And then, can you think of anybody else like her? I believe this to be true.
Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah. Linda Ronstadt was really good too.
Smiled, beautiful voice, no controversy.
But I know Linda's got an attitude. Linda definitely has an attitude. I know she came to Milwaukee one time.
Yeah.
And there were Linda Ronstadt tickets. People went to Linda Ronstadt. I remember hearing about this because they all came into my bar I was DJing in afterwards and told me about it. They were angry. She goes on stage and she says, look, I'm going to sing all of my Spanish songs tonight and none of my hits. And if you came here for the hits, well, you could just leave now. And she sang all Spanish songs all night. Didn't do one hit. And it wasn't like the Linda Ronstadt Spanish music tour. It was Linda Ronstadt in concert. And people were like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're not going to do any of your songs? She just didn't care. So I don't, Linda Ronstadt didn't always have this reputation as a nice person. She was very much an entitled person.
Just to prove your point, Brian, watching the David Foster documentary on Netflix, when they wanted Whitney Houston to do I Will Always Love You for Bodyguard, they couldn't find a version of Dolly Parton. So this is pre-internet. So somebody couldn't get it. They couldn't go to a store, whatever. But they found Linda Ronstadt who covered it.
Yeah.
And she does an okay job, but Linda Ronstadt only sings the first two verses. So David Foster goes to Whitney Houston with the first two verses, but beforehand calls Dolly Parton and says, hey, Dolly, just want to let you know, we're going to use your song. Because apparently back in the day, that's how you got publishing rights, was to call the artist and be like, hey, it's David Foster.
Well, she owned it, so that's why they called her. Yeah.
Like, we're going to do this. And she's like, oh, I can't wait to hear her on the third verse, that really dramatic part in the song. He's like, what third verse? We have the Linda Ronstadt verse. She's like, no, Linda didn't do the third verse. She couldn't pull it. Because it's that when that the real dramatic is the third verse.
Right. When I wish you joy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That whole thing. Because Dolly's like, oh, I can't wait to hear her voice hit the range she's got on those words. Yeah. And David Foster's like, wait a second, what third verse? So they ended up sending David Foster the Dolly Parton version, which is the one, because he called Clive Davis and said, no, I think we're going to do this song instead. And Clive's like, I think it's a mistake. And David Foster went off. And he said to David Foster, you know what? Why don't we end the call now before one of us says something the other one might regret?
Oh.
Realizing full well that if Clive said no, Whitney couldn't do it. There was no getting around Clive Davis. Can you even imagine, though, those two on a phone, like arguing over a song? But it's that whole thing that Linda didn't even do the best verse of the song.
I want to go
put it out.
I want to go back to Aaron's point when he was talking about TikTok, because we kind of got sidetracked on that one. Yeah, TikTok videos are short, but I know this. I think everyone knows it, whether they've articulated it or not, or they acknowledge that they know it. But almost everything out there right now, musically, has this element to it where, hey, I can do it, you can do it too. It's relatable things. The artists are relatable. They look like everybody. They dress like everybody. They sound like everybody. And it's like an anything is possible kind of thing. When I was a kid, I remember watching this new Mickey Mouse Club on TV, and it might have only been an LA thing because, I was there in LA. But the kids pissed me off because they were so freaking talented. And they were on TV and they were dancing and singing, and I knew I could never dance and sing and get on TV. So I'm like, you know what? I'm out. I'm just not that talented.
Now you're talking about Britney Spears again.
Well, look, Britney Spears was every chick.
Yeah.
Absolutely every chick.
Christina
I don't think her
Aguilera.
voice was amazing.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah, Timberlake, Justin is in there.
It was competent. But yeah, back in those days, the cream, it was this cream that you saw. This amazing talent got attention. And stuff like we're doing right now gets no attention back then. It's this amateur crap. Who cares about this stuff?
You
got to be professional to get
all
the
that.
attention.
Star Search, American Idol.
Absolutely.
They take, and I hate all three.
So
people get mad at me when I say it. I don't care. You want to be famous? Go to a bar, get a guitar, get a microphone, and put it out there.
No,
and
I
if that
really like
doesn't
punk.
work.
Not in that order, though, right?
I like punk. I like amateur. I like to see what the average person does.
Dues.
But there needs to be a bar set by someone, you would think. I mean, Prince did it. Michael Jackson did it. George Michael did it.
Yeah, but
Metallica did it. Eddie
they
Van
may not
Halen
have ever passed through. Look at some of the big. Dave Grohl goes off about this, and he's always saying, like, I guarantee if the Foo Fighters showed up to any talent show, we never would have made it. Yeah. If we allowed somebody else to make our career, we wouldn't have done it. He goes, if you want a career in music, you need to go play for people. People either like you or don't. When you find the people that like you, play for them more. Then come back to their town.
Right now we have that instant. We have that instant worldwide recognition. You get the Carrie Underwood, the people like that make those shows, and 8 million people a night watch it, and bang, she's famous. Within a year, she's got a record deal and she's got stuff out.
Well, this is kind of why TikTok doesn't surprise me, because nothing out there is so amazing that you want to watch it for more than a few seconds.
Music has become that commodity.
That's a good point.
But that it's become a commodity that they promote. Chris Cox said it in the show Howie was in with me.
Yeah.
Chris Cox said when they asked him, Carrie Vance goes, doing a lot of remixes? He's like, no, labels aren't putting money into remixes. They're going to TikTok.
Yeah.
They'd rather go and find influencers on TikTok that have 8 million followers and say, hey, would you mind playing this 30-second snippet of this track by a band no one's ever heard of? Because we want it to go viral. We want that notoriety.
I find this really odd that they're 30-second clips, but they have a chart, a TikTok chart.
Right.
That's kind of weird to me.
Well, I think Spotify has taken it out of the hands of Billboard, out of the hands of sales, and out of the hands of labels, and made it that any idiot can go in and say, I could go in right now and say, hey, the Tuesday night show with Brian, Jay, and Howie, here's our chart. And every week there's going to be music that goes on it. And eventually somebody's going to hear something and go, I like that song. Let me add that to because again, you don't own it. So adding 1 million playlists. I mean, you ever go to YouTube and look at the videos you've liked and you go to the like section?
Hate it when he does.
Boom. There's 8,000 likes. It's like, that's what it's become. It's become.
And officially, I want to
the people buy the people commodity that they run.
If you like a song, or if you like a band, if you like an artist, please go to iTunes and buy the song. Pay the $1.29, pay the 99 cents, please. It goes a long way. Well, those guys that do all the streaming, I just want to say it because it's like, I know a lot of artists. You all do. We all do. And you know what? The craft is going to die if it's not supported properly.
Well, I think there's a couple ways to look at that, and I don't know if I'm right or I'm wrong, but I would just think that if you're really serious about making money at this, and you're serious about what you're doing as a craft, you're going to push. The person I'm thinking of is Lady Gaga, who was serious about it. She was talented, just fantastic writer, fantastic musician.
Yeah,
fantastic stage presence, but she put herself out there. She wasn't lazy. Howie remembers her dragging keyboards in a New York cafe.
Yeah,
before she hit.
Put her as today's Olivia Newton-John. Brian, would you go there? Would you say, if you had to find Olivia Newton-John in 2022, are you saying it's Lady Gaga? She worked her butt off.
No, I'm just saying that today, as an artist, you have to want it. If you're lazy about it, ain't going to happen. If you feel like you're entitled just because you're good, you're not going to. You've got to put yourself out there.
It's true.
It's like Jay said about Dave Grohl. Put yourself out in front of an audience. Find an audience that likes you.
Exactly, and that's what Lady Gaga did.
Yeah.
She literally carried her own piano in a soft case, and went in the Village Vanguard, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, this was before she was famous. I was like, oh my gosh, she's good.
I saw Tracy Chapman in Harvard Square standing in front of the Harvard Coop where I used to work.
Yeah.
With the guitar case open. She was going to Tufts in Cambridge and playing guitar and singing Fast Car and singing songs. And people were like, holy, wait a second, throwing money. There was an Eric Clapton interview in the late 70s I heard on the radio, and he said something that has stuck with me to this day. They said,
you're only as good as your last gig.
They used to write God all over Europe.
Quote.
They used to write God all over Europe about Eric Clapton as God. And he's like, I'm not God. He goes, I got in front of the right people at the right time. I put in my dues. And there's a certain amount of luck that came in with it. He goes, somewhere right now, there's a guy in a small apartment with a little amp who's 10 times a better player than I am. The difference, I'm on the radio talking to you. He's still stuck in his apartment, and he may never get out.
Yeah, Clapton calls it, you got to put your time in the woodshed.
Yeah, it reminds me. He does, but even the woodshed, there are guys that are 10 times better than Eddie Van Halen.
That was that same comment that somebody was asking, who's the best DJ? And I came back and I said, there's some kid sitting in his bedroom that can outmix the hell out of any person in this room. We just haven't seen him yet.
Well, it reminds me of, it reminds me of what Randy Bachman said. I don't remember who said this to him, but he was a young man, and I think he was doing Guess Who at the time. And they said, look, there's always going to be somebody out there better than you as far as being a guitar player. So learn to write.
But I think we judge it incorrectly. When you go to levels of talent, you diminish the fact that talent has no guidance when it comes to individuality. It is what you're given. It is what you earn. You can't register. I hate these polls that are like, here's the best this. And you look and you go, wow, that band is so popular right now. How is it that the guitar player from BTS is number 5 and the all-time best guitar players? Like, no one can pronounce his name, but he's number 5.
Yeah,
because who votes for it? And that's the downside. And that's where talent gets diminished. Because if it's voting, it becomes a popularity. It's nothing to do with talent. Talent is subjective only to the individual.
I remember being very angry. I forget what magazine it was. It was some magazine. And it was probably 1998. And they were telling me that the most sexy woman alive was Britney Spears.
Who was the most popular person at the time.
Who, at best, is the hottest girl full of schools of ugly girls. I mean, at best. If every girl in school's ugly, maybe she's the hottest. Like, every girl, I don't know, got dropped as a baby and was in a car accident. Except her, then she's the hottest girl in school.
All right.
So it's not like, there's anything that has to do with actual beauty, talent. It's a popularity contest, unfortunately. But if you marry talent with good music, then you have something. And I would argue that happened quite a bit with Olivia. She had good songs, and they hit and it was good. On the other hand, she had some songs that weren't so good and they stayed on the country charts.
That's where rock and roll goes.
I'm sorry, but it's true.
I think it's always still going to come down to when and where and how and what was going on around you. And, you know, it gets old and it gets tiring to get into the discussion of like, this one's better than.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, I agree.
You can't make that comment. I'm not the biggest Pearl Jam fan. I've seen them live and I know why people love them. But I got to tell you, Eddie Vedder they won a Grammy, I think. And he came out and said, wow, we won an award for art. He goes, you know, I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't either.
How is my art better than this art? Like, why am I walking away with a little award for my art when I truly believe that his art was 10 times better than my art?
Right.
He's like, you can't make music a subjective title and judge it based on this. The greatest song in the world was never number one sometimes.
That's why I don't watch any of those shows like America's Got Talent, The Voice, or it's a popularity thing. I don't care. I don't watch.
People are rooting for the story. They find some guy or girl from Tennessee or wherever, and they're 16 years old and they have 6 jobs. They've got every disease under the map. They've had such a tragic life, but they have a beautiful voice. Anywhere else in the world, they'd be a background singer until they can get their own signing. Mm-hmm. But America buys into it and goes, oh, we have to help them along. It's like, you know what? Somewhere there's a mother with 3 kids homeless in a car that can't have food tonight. How about you help them?
You know, when you think about, you know, the whole package thing with the looks and the voice, or maybe just the looks and the voice is secondary on some of these, you know, newer artists. The one I think about that I wonder if they would have ever done anything if they'd have been around in today's time is Elton John. I wonder if anybody would have paid any attention to him today. With his
I absolutely think he would have. I absolutely believe it deep in my heart. I think it's
he didn't write anything.
No, Bernie Taupin.
He wrote the music
of the lyrics.
Right, but he didn't write lyrics and things.
No.
His voice isn't great. He can play.
You know who introduced him at the Troubadour? His first Troubadour gig?
Was it Bette Midler or something?
No, it was James Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
And in the audience was Carole King and James. Like, everyone was there because the buzz was going around about there's this guy.
Yeah.
And he did the Troubadour gig that changed his career because everyone in LA was there. And within 2 years, he sold out Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, he stood out.
Because, you know, the people that controlled the music industry understood his talent. There is no music industry right now. I mean, you know, there are CEOs and presidents of labels, but who cares? No, people are putting out their own music in this new DIY style on the internet.
Yeah.
The labels have fallen away. So if you don't have that power base, it comes down to popularity. You just did a festival. I just did a festival. There were headliners at both festivals that made 0 sense in the scheme of it all. But the audience in front of them apparently loved them enough to say, this is who we want.
Right.
Yeah. Martin Garrix, there's a great documentary on him. He, within 2 years of releasing Animal, headlined Ultra. And about 90% of the DJs on the bill had no understanding as to why. They're like, wait a second, he's been a DJ for 2 years. He's headlining the biggest festival on the East Coast. Yeah. On Saturday night? Yes. Why? Well, he had this big hit and he's a good kid. He's like 19. Yeah, but I mean, you make DJing less of an art form when you say, this kid had a big hit, put him on the top of the bill. Well, where are the real DJs that have put in the time and effort in their career and slugged it out in the bars and the clubs and the bar mitzvahs and the weddings and everything else? So again, you make talent so subjective that it just becomes like a popularity contest or right place, right time. And you get swept up in that wave of, you know what, if we can get this name at the top of the list.
You know, speaking of, we only have about 20 minutes left, or less than 15 minutes left. I was thinking about DJ Expo. And, you know, we were there. Everyone here was there. And I got to tell you, I walked away from DJ Expo just realizing, I'm not a very good DJ. I'm kidding. No, I felt amazing walking away from Expo. On so many levels. I felt legit walking away from Expo. I really did. Yeah. More so than I have in a very long time.
And I know why.
Many levels.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Well, no, you don't. I mean, we're talking about this kind of hype thing that happens. There's a lot of that.
Yep.
And a lot of it is exactly that, hype, I don't know. I just...
Yeah.
I had fun at Expo, though. It was a positive experience.
I did too.
It was positive.
I appreciate you guys inviting me down to that too. Just the people, you people made it great for me. My first Expo. I know it was your 20-something, Brian.
Okay.
You've all been doing this for a while, and I'm glad you still do it. I'm glad you still show up. And the togetherness in it. I'm going to sing Kumbaya for a second, but I'm just going to say thanks. It made my first one great, and I can't wait to go back.
It's a different show than it used to be.
It certainly is.
It's a lot more chill than it used to be. Howie, I think you hit the tail end of the crazy. I think, I don't know what year it was. It was like 15 or 16.
Yes.
And
15?
that was one of the last years that it was like a big show. Would you agree, Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And it was very
they had the 30-foot trussing for the lighting companies, and there's the only place you can do that now would be at the convention center.
Yeah.
Because at the room that they have there now, they used to have, it was a 40 foot tall, and they cut that. That's the reason the ceiling.
Yeah, it's a two-story room now.
Yeah, they have offices right above the expo floor.
No, I don't know this to be true, but it's got to be there. Is that where they used to have Tyson fights?
Yeah,
that's
in that room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They changed the seating on the sides.
Yes.
Cut it in half. Yeah.
And it's like one of the problems we had was we brought the gear in for stage, and I'm like, why is the stage so big? And one of the union guys was like, oh, they didn't strike from Sunday or Saturday. And I'm like, what was Saturday? They're like, Alicia Keys.
Yeah.
So the physical stage, because at the end of Expo, you guys were all gone. I was still there. They struck the stage. I don't know what their next event was, but they took the entire stage down. I was like, and they thought it would help our event. Normally you have that whole Times Square area.
Sounds lazy to me.
And the stairs go up to the front stage. The stairs went up to like 6 panels back because I had to go on stage on Monday, and I'm like, this is huge. Why is this so big? Like, oh, we left Alicia's stage up. I'm like, oh, that was a mistake. Like, we kind of need that 40 or 50 feet to get people to come down to see the artist, but I guess never mind. It used to be very DJs coming in to talk about gear, coming in to talk about, I had people talking to me about NFTs. I had people talking to me about how they're buying this and that, and they're expanding their photo booth. I couldn't, dude, photo booths got jack, what to do with being a DJ. I don't want to go to a photo booth expo.
Yeah.
By the way, I did see Butterfly Ponytail there. So.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wandering around. Came right up to me, said, "So good to see you. Want to thank you." Oh no, he didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I've never met him. Oh yeah, I let my president know. I go, you know who that is? That's the guy that runs that show who's never once said hi to me. He didn't introduce himself.
Never said,
I'm like,
yeah.
No. And when you're spending tens of thousands of dollars, it's sort of a courtesy. Like you walk through and you're like, hey, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate the support. That's what normal people do.
Complaints and grievances. You're airing them for you all to see.
Get out the festival.
Did I say that out loud?
But it was it was a little, it was a different,
okay.
It was still a good vibe. It's weird though with the way we communicate on the internet, with Facebook Messenger especially, how many people would come up and be like, hey, Jay, so good to see you. I'm like, hey, man. And the disadvantage is I have a shirt that says that on it. And they don't. Their badges are always turned around. Be like, I don't know if you remember, I was here last year and I was talking about this piece of gear, and I'm like, no.
I get the stares.
Let's revisit.
I get the weird stares where they look at me and then they whisper to somebody like, "Is that him?" I don't know.
I thought he was taller.
Maybe it's him. I mean, I don't know.
Might be him.
But then they come up. Are you that? Yeah, and talk. I got fantastic feedback from the show, about what's been going on my channel. And I need it because I don't get it otherwise. It's strange. You when you're face to face with somebody, it's a hell of a lot better than a comment.
Oh, yeah.
Or anything else.
Yeah.
Or an email or a message or whatever.
Well, that was all the show comments that just shocked me. How many people came up and they went out of their way.
Yeah,
we're stopping me in hallways. Hey, Jay, just got a second? I'm John Smith. I watch you and Howie and Brian every Tuesday, man. I love the show. Yada yada yada. I'm like, oh man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. No, what I love is that it's funny, but there's always information. There's always nuggets. There's always this. There's always that. I'm like, wow, man, I appreciate that. Thank you. Like,
it's the feedback you need to hear. It's something to think about whenever you're doing a show. Hey, people really appreciate this. Let's make sure that we don't lose track of this.
Especially,
let's make sure we get plenty of this in there.
Yeah, and we especially need that when we're, after loading a lot of gear and setting things up and all that. It's the stuff that's, not the fun stuff.
Right.
I don't know. It was just good. It was really good to get the feedback. I feel like the show was well attended.
I do too.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a positive experience. Yeah, there are supply chain issues out there. Every company is experiencing them to some extent.
I was pretty surprised with what Pioneer had at the show. I thought I'd see a lot less than I did see, because I know the supply chain issues here, how it filters to here, we're left with just the leftovers. We don't get a lot up here. So to see the supply that was there, I was really surprised how much Pioneer had for sale. At the retailer next door. And
that's one of those industry secrets that people just don't understand. And it's sad in a lot of ways, because you've got somebody that's like, I ordered this 6 months ago, I haven't gotten it, but your retailer has it in front of me.
Ouch. Yeah.
And it's like, there's certain gear we did not show on purpose because it didn't make sense to say, here's this piece of gear that you loved
and you can't
years ago, and you can't get
have. Yeah.
And that's still a new reality. The
XZ was back ordered to October of this year, and I saw 4 of them sitting there.
Well, it's a rock and a hard place for a guy like me who does, the demos and such. Part of what I do, because there are companies out there who are ready to do something, but they don't have it. Why should I talk about a product that you have, but you don't have it? If you can't sell it, why am I talking about it?
That's right.
Right.
So I mean, I was speaking to one particular company, and the words that came out of my mouth was, what needs a push? Meaning, what do you have in stock that you'd like to sell? That's what I should probably be talking about.
But I gotta say, it was cool to see that kid's face.
2023.
Yeah, that kid at Pioneer that got that Rev 7, that young kid. The look on that kid's face when his dad said, "Guess what? We got the last one." I mean,
that kid's been in the booth for probably 3 years.
Unbelievable. That kid was off the wall. And to see that kind of excitement in a young person picking up a piece of quality DJ gear, who is going to become a DJ. They're going to be playing the shows. They're going to be coming out. Like, it was inspiring. It was great to see that.
So everybody had fun. That's good.
It was a good show.
Yeah. Fun had by all.
I think the turnout will inspire next summer's show. I had probably 2 people come up to me that wanted it to go back to Harrah's. And that is the last thing any of the vendors want.
Yeah, the last thing I want.
No. And I
like that property.
And I just simply explained, I said, the problem is you'll lose vendors because it's so expensive after a while of shipping people back, because there's nothing to do at Harrah's.
No.
It's like South Point.
It has
South Point
to
is a
be
great
more-
all-in-one.
Right.
There's
Yep.
you're 7
It's tied
miles
to
from
nothing.
Tropicana. Yeah,
The boardwalk is
Right in front of
so
you.
appealing.
yeah.
It
Oh, yeah.
really
Me.
is. It really
know?
is. Yeah.
I want to go to this little hole in the wall and get a slice, You're not doing that at Harris.
No,
Yeah.
you can't.
You're either eating at Harris or you're
You're going to Golden Nugget,
taking an Uber somewhere.
or you're going
Hard
to
Rock was
Borgata.
perfect. Hard Rock was perfect. You walk out on the steel pier, like you're saying, go get any of the treats. The hot dogs are there. All the fair food is right there.
There's
You know,
people
just
watching. You're
yeah.
part of it there.
And
You're
the,
not a part of anything at Harris or South Point. You're a part of nothing.
right.
It's just
Hard
a
Rock was
very
great.
different vibe. If I didn't know any better, fine, but I do, so I want that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a good show. I think everybody had fun, and I learned a lot. Put some things in perspective for me, as far as where DJs are, where DJs aren't, maybe where I might be able to help or be of service to our industry through video, and only give it my best shot to try to educate people the best I can. It's funny because, I mean, as DJs, I think we all kind of assume, or I do anyway, if someone's professional or if someone is, making a name for themselves or whatever, you assume they know what you know. You just kind of assume it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like musicians. Every musician assumes the next musician reads music too. Hey, play this in the key of C, and you assume they know how to do that. They don't always know how to do that, but you assume they do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with DJs. I assume DJs know music. I assume DJs know how to do sound. I assume DJs know how to do lighting. I assume DJs know how to use a microphone.
Yeah.
And I assume DJs know how to talk to a crowd and play to a crowd. And that's not always the case,
That was one of the seminars I went to with Mike Marquez, and that was his opening to his seminar, was every person in this room believes they're all on the same level.
Yeah.
We are not. And we need to figure out where we are and how to move to the next level.
Yeah.
And his seminar was fantastic. So he said, by show of hands, and he had the slideshow, and he turned to the slideshow and he read it as he was going through it. Jay, first slide up. Are you a bedroom DJ? Put your hands up. And I could not believe 75% of the room had their hands up.
Well, that's Expo. I can totally believe it.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then they went through, who's a mobile DJ that's done a couple parties. You got paid a couple bucks. Your auntie kicked you some money for her birthday party. Who's done some mobile paid events? More hands. Who's like a pro mobile? Who's done festivals? Who's done clubs? Who's done radio? Like, where are you on the chart? And it was surprising to see, there wasn't too many pro mobiles that have done festivals, and I've got all that this week.
It just puts things in perspective, because I can say to somebody, hey, how familiar are you with Olivia NewtonJohn? Oh yeah, very familiar. Hey, I don't know, for some reason DJs don't want to say that they don't know stuff. It's a generation thing. Young people don't like to say they don't know things. They want to always know, and they're embarrassed if they don't. My kids are like that. I'm trying to break them of that, but it's a thing because of Google. If they don't know, all they have to do is Google it, if they bother to do it. But they just pretend to know everything and have all the answers. Well, you know what? Sometimes you just got to learn how to say, I don't know, I need help, and get the help and learn how to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Or, let your ego do the talking. And
the early Aerosmith stuff that Jay plays, I haven't heard that stuff. I love it. I love it when you play the early stuff, the deep stuff,
checking emails,
the cuts, the old Aerosmith tracks that I don't know. I love it. I love it because I'm a big fan of the band. And then when you play that stuff on your channel, on your show, on Twitch, and you go into the deep Aerosmith stuff, I love it because now I'm hearing stuff I don't know. And it's from a band that I do like.
Yeah.
I mean, hey,
music's
I love
exposure.
I love learning. Bring it. There's a lot I don't know.
Well, we're hitting the top of the hour, so I'm going to put a fork in this sucker. Any final thoughts? You got 2 minutes. Howie.
No, just goodbye. I'm waving goodbye.
You waving goodbye? He says peace. All right. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Alrighty.